morning. So, today I want to talk about something that I've observed, like in the media in Spain. It's quite interesting, and I expect it probably goes on everywhere and like for all time. But it's only the kind of thing that you can notice if you're actually like in the right place at the right time. So, there's going to be European elections like in June sometime, the 9th of June it is in Spain. And this time round, there's a guy who's started up like a new political movement in Spain called Acabó la Fiesta, which means like the party's over. And what the whole thing about it is that he's like an independent journalist, and he exposes corruption and things like that. And so there's a thing in Spain which I'm pretty sure doesn't exist elsewhere, but there's a thing called aforamiento, which is like when if you're a politician, then you can't be prosecuted for like certain things. So like basically you can't be taken to court, for like things that you've said and things that you publish, and that's what he's looking for. So that's why he wants to get into the European Parliament, so that he can be protected as an independent journalist and to expose like corruption and things. And because he's been taken to court like loads of times, and up until now he's always won. Like it's been politicians and people associated with politicians and things like that. So one of the things that I found interesting is that to be able to become like set up a political party and stuff like that, you need like certain amounts of signatures and things like that, and he's got that. There's been a few strange things happen where like he's asked for these signatures to be sent via the post, and like thousands of them have gone missing and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm not really going to go into that right now, but he's going to be on the ballot. So the thing is, he's kind of he's like labelled as like far right. That's his he's a far right character and things like that. But what's interesting is that he's labelled that, well, obviously by the mainstream media, but because he's like exposing corruption and things like that, he's not actually just exposing corruption from like what you'd say is the left. He's got it in for everyone. If he just finds something, then he'll he brings it to light. So he's actually there's like no political parties who like him at all. I mean, apart from the fact that he's obviously going to be taking votes off them. So it's like everyone's going for him, and it's kind of amusing to watch, because so you've got like on the left part leaning parties, like the ones like the Socialist Party who's in power, like they're all about, he's a shill and he's being paid by the right wing political parties and stuff like that. And then or like he's being paid by the Venezuelan opposition and stuff like that. Obviously the Venezuelan opposition, not that there's much of it, but it's obviously right wing. It's not like there's anyone to the left of the Venezuelan government. And so, but then the right wing parties accuse him of being like funded by, so like one of the right wing parties says that he's being funded by another of the left of the right wing parties that isn't them, and it's just like it's. I mean, the people who accuse him of this obviously know that he's not being funded because, you know, it's just so obvious because he's got it in for everyone. It's not like anyone will like pay for it and say, well, just go for them harder. You can go for me, but go for them harder. You know, it just doesn't make sense. Even like just reading anything about it for like the minimum amount of time, it's just leaps out at you that it's just nonsense. And so it struck me that, you know, why tell such such lame lies, you know, that lies that, you know, they can't withstand any scrutiny at all, you know, even the minimal amount of effort. You just say, hold on, this doesn't make sense. Why are you getting accused by like everyone, and like everyone's using their own little shtick to like say, well, you know, we're right wing, so he's getting supported by like the right wing shill party because we're like the real true right. Well, you know, it's just. So I was wondering, how does this even happen? And it's because people who like put so much, you know, stand by, oh, you've got to vote, and voting's really important, but they don't take any time whatsoever at all to even think about like what they're voting for, or it's just a total football club mentality of like, this is my team, and I'm just going to vote for that team no matter what, and I don't care, and I'm not going to look into it. In fact, I've said this before, it's not even that. The worst thing is that people don't even vote for things, they just vote against things. And so we just, just cut myself. We just always have this stupid situation of not making things better ever. It's just, oh, I want it to be, I just don't want that to happen, I don't want that to happen. And so we're never really going, we just can't make things better ever like that. So it's just this ridiculous situation. And so, I mean, I know myself just from like conversations that I have with like my dad or wherever, and he's not, you know, he's always complaining at me that I don't vote, and it's like, you know, it's as if I don't vote because I'm just like lazy or something, you know, rather than the fact that, you know, I seriously believe that I don't have the right to impose my will on someone else. You know, and that's, you know, if you don't believe that voting is imposing your will on someone else, then you don't know anything about voting, because that's the whole point. Surely that's the point. So, you know, it's kind of, I mean, I'm not saying that, so this guy, like, Alvisa Perez, his name is, and he's quite amusing, like, he's funny and stuff, you know, so he does, I mean, it's all in Spanish, so I'd say go and look for him, but, you know, if you don't speak Spanish, then you won't understand it, but he did actually live in London for a few years, so maybe he's like, there might be some English content out there, I don't know. You know, I expect he must speak some English at least. So, it's just really, it made me think, you know, what other things happen that, you know, what I think is true is just entirely like manipulated and tailored for me, because I see these attacks on this guy, and they're coming from all sides, and they're all like for different reasons, but they're all reasons that like would make sense if you only look at the situation like from one particular angle. Then the criticism that you'll hear, that like you're fed through like the things that you read every day or watch or whatever, you know, you just hear that criticism, then it seems perfectly logical. But when you look somewhere else and then there's a different criticism that actually isn't compatible with that criticism, these two criticisms are completely incompatible. So like, if either one is true, then the other one has to be false. You know, it just has to be. You know, you can't be getting funded. You can't be like simultaneously being paid for by the Venezuelan opposition and be getting funded by right wing. You know, you can't be a shill for like some right wing party here, because why would you be getting, you know, you just can't get these two things to line up. And so that's the thing, isn't it? It's like not only is the media tailored, like in this like social media paradigm that we live in, where it's very easy to only consume things that sort of like align with what you want to hear anyway. So it's like the whole Facebook paradigm is where, you know, you just go into a silo and you just hear things that you want to hear. You know, that's everyone's life now. I mean, there was always the case, like when I was a kid, and like you could tell what people's, or you could largely tell what people's political outlook was in the UK by what newspaper they'd buy. You couldn't really tell in my house, because the only newspaper we bought the other week was the Liverpool Echo, so that was just like whatever. But you know, the people, I had a newspaper around in the mornings for like not very long, but for I don't know, a little while. And so, you know, there'd be, you know, I'd be delivering the newspapers, so, you know, some people would get the Mirror, and so they were probably like Labour voters, and people would get like the People or whatever, and then they, I don't know, maybe they were Conservatives. And then like you'd have your broadsheets, the Guardian, so like obviously they were probably Labour voters, and then you'd have the Telegraph and the Times. So the Telegraph, they were definitely Tories, and the Times were most likely Tories. And this was all at the time when I grew up completely under a Conservative government, well, from what I remember. And you know, it was all Thatcher when I was growing up until I was about, I don't know, 14, 15 maybe, when John Major came in. But it was, you know, so the idea of sort of like reading stuff that you were interested in, or, you know, that didn't clash with what your political ideals, then that's like always happened. But now it's just so much, it's just so, it's so more like ingrained, and to the fact where people don't even apologise for, like, you wouldn't think that there's anything wrong with only hearing one side. And you know, you're literally signing up to be propagandised. So it was just this situation. So like he's not even on the news. This is how like crazy it is. Like, nobody is covering the fact that this guy is going into the European elections. I mean, I'm assuming that the closer we get to it, so it's just over a month off, 3 weeks away. You know, will he break out into the mainstream so that people will hear about him and stuff? I don't know if he will. And I wasn't even sure that he'd actually make it onto the ballot. And the thing is, in Spain, it kind of works funny. So I voted in the UK, where you like basically go in, or right, I'm talking, it was the first year that Tony Blair ran for, you know, it was that election when Labour won, and that was the first year that I could vote in a general election, and I actually did vote for Labour. Because like, I was clueless. Now I wouldn't vote for anyone. But anyway, and then it was like you pen, and like you go in and you know, you mark your cross on whoever you're voting for. And in Spain you actually have like there's papers that you actually have to fold and put in an envelope, and you give it to someone, and they put it into the glass box. You know, you don't, you know, I haven't even deposited my own vote in the glass box. And so like if the papers for this guy aren't there, or his political movement, if they're not there on the day that you vote, you can't vote for him. And so what he's doing, he's organised this campaign where he's actually distributing these papers himself so that people can take them along to the to vote and put them in the envelope themselves, because if they don't, people were concerned that perhaps they just won't be able to vote. And it's quite a crazy situation, because you wouldn't think, and you'd think that like elections, at least in the West, would be somewhat, fairness is kind of a given, you know what I mean? Or you think it is. Whereas, maybe it's not. Maybe you just like, whoops, we forgot to, bring his ballot, or whoops, we didn't print enough, or, things like this. It can actually happen. And it's, I think that, when the European Union are sending, people to monitor elections outside Europe to make sure that they're fair. And it's these type of things, people are actually worried about them in Western countries, in Spain. I mean, not that Spain's had a great history with democracy, because like it was under a 40-year dictatorship, and people don't get out of that. That's another thing that I've noticed, is people they're not as free as they think they are, like up here. People are very polarised politically. And it's just like the whole, people very much identify with, like, there's the whole good and bad thing, like, so it's like, which comes from the dictatorship. So like if you were like opposed the regime, you were a bad person, you were bad, it's like, but then the people who like see the people who weren't pro-regime, they see the people who did approve of the regime as being really bad as well. And so everyone thinks that everyone is just like evil. And it's kind of, it's a bad situation to be in, because like people feel like there's like existential danger if like such and such a person gets into power. Like what was with Donald Trump and the whole Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, whether you like Donald Trump or not, you've got to admit that Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing. People went mad because of Donald Trump, and if he gets in again, or if he even gets to be on the ballot again, people are going to go mad again. I mean, you can say what you like about him, but he actually wasn't Hitler. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just thought that I'd mention this to like sort of a wider audience, because within Spain, it's funny, people don't actually know about this guy. And there's a good chance that on the day that the results are announced, that a lot of people will be going, "What? Who's this guy?" So it's kind of funny. Anyway, I'm too hungry to cook any longer, so I'm just gonna eat. The salmon might be a bit sushi-like, but I don't care. I'm starving. So yeah, it's kind of what's going on in Spain at the moment. My fingers stop bleeding now, more or less, which is good. So anyway, Fran has cooked lunch, and now he's going to eat it. Have a good day. Talk to you soon.